I wanted to go over a few of the finer points of the last video I did. I wasn't able to get up close to it. So the first thing is, if I'm going to lay out, this is my first plate, and I lay this plate out, and I would preferably, as I'm going, get as many measurements as I can so I don't have to come back. I can't really hold it there, but I put my elbow down. And so I step off. You know, this tape measure doesn't give me the 16 on center like a normal tape measure does, but I'm just kind of working with it and showing you just for, instructional purposes. I bring my tape out and, I'm stepping off as I'm going, and I'm trying to get as many measurements as I can, but I don't want to break my concentration. I get to the end of my board. That's where I really want to make sure I got an accurate measurement. So if I forego putting each 16-inch on center marking on here, like see right there, then I would do it and just come back after and do it. But on these, the subsequent boards, I would not be concerned at all with doing that on center spacing, except for the first one. So I've marked on here the measurement 6 foot 9 and an 8 ball. And so I'm going to burn that right here on this second one. I'm going to put the phone down for a second to get that. 6 foot 9 and an 1/8. Okay, so I calculated that to be, I forget what it was, because I just have feet and inches on here, but whatever that measurement is, I marked it, I pre-marked it. So it's pretty close to this one, but the next one was way over here on the next board. So I only did those first layouts. So I'm working just in this area right here. So afterwards, and when you're doing 16-foot lengths, you make a lot more sense. I would line up the first layout. This one's only a little off. And then the next board, see how much further off it is. So I'd have to adjust these. Try not to rack my toe here. There you go. And then the next one was equal. These boards were different lengths anyway. So if you were doing this with 8-footers, they'd all be the same. So I've got my first layout, and once I line these up, now I can come, and this, I already did this, but imagine there's nothing here. There's no writing at all. I've only got my first layout. So as long as those are in line, I can just scribe across and get all 3 of these in one swoop. I don't have to worry about. Now you got to think about, what would I normally be doing? Normally these would be over on the chalk line, and I would be pulling my tape out and marking each one of these with the tape measure all the way down. So this was 25. Well, I don't know exactly how much this is, but let's say 30 foot of doing that when I haven't moved at all. And this took me probably 5 minutes, if that. And I wasn't even really trying to do it quickly. And I don't have my benches set up the way I want. So I was kind of struggling, and I'm trying to video everything. So one line, mark your X's, 2 lines. And then after that, I'll look at my plans, and you have to figure out where you're going to pull each measurement from. But if I'm pulling it from one wall or the other way, whatever I want to do, I'm going to find out. And I just made up something. I did, I think this was like 13 feet or 17 feet. So I looked at, what I do is when I get my measurement here, I write it down. So I know that when I put my tape on this side, I know I can just quickly reference, and it was 9 and whatever, 6 foot 9 and an 1/8. Same thing on all of these. I make a notation so I don't have to remeasure it if I forget. But that means I can just come on. I know between 13.7 and a half, the circle means fat, meaning like a fat 32nd, and a line for me just means skinny. So I know I got to go somewhere on this board is going to be my 17. So some of these things I just quickly did it, but I put my center mark, and then I got my jack on this side and my jack on this side. So that's a door or a window. And you can mark the measurements on there if you want to. Or if you have an intersection of a wall, you mark it on the bottom and top plate. And I haven't done where I'm going to do, these would all be like the bottom plates. But it's the same exact thing if you're going to do, I have a marking where, see, like this is top plate 1. I can put bottom plate, these are all top plates, but if I wanted to, I could do top plate 1, bottom plate 1. That way I'm catching both of these with my jacks and everything. And it's all about your organization and your notation. And now I got a whole wall, top, bottom plate, and I can even do the same thing with my double top plate, and I can put my rafters marking on top of it. And then once I get my rafter, I can put my ridge. I can even incorporate my fascia and my other opposing exterior wall into it. Now, people are not probably going to do that off the bat. That's going to take a little bit. But as you see how much time you're saving with doing this, if I were to do my fascia, so if this is fully extended, this is the through wall, and the butt wall would go like that way. So that would be held back 3.5. But if I'm doing my fascia from here, whatever my overhang is, minus 1.5 inches for my, well, I meant, my fascia on this side, minus 1.5 inches, or if it runs through, I wouldn't deduct that. But I would just hang it over from here, and then I can step off like I did with the tape. I can step off all my lengths and make a pack right here and call that my, the fascia on the west side of the house. And that's ready to go. I can lay it out so I know where my rafter tails are going to go. And so that way I can pull them on layout. I mean, the opportunities with this are kind of endless as far as you're willing to take it, honestly. I've even got, this is up and coming, but I'm going to have a class where I show how to lay out a hip. And I don't mean lay out the hip to cut it. I mean lay it out where you have your on-center jack layouts so that when your framer goes up there to nail on the jacks, he doesn't have to pull out his tape. He's already got a line where it's supposed to go. So if it's all mathematically done and you nail it on location, then theoretically you can put in that hip roof. One man can do it on his own. And that's what we're trying to get to. So try to see if you can wrap your head around that. And sometimes you got to pull out a couple of 2x4s and kind of run a drill and see, then lay them out in your garage and see how accurately you measured it. I mean, this stuff, you really need to make sure you got that tape and really eyeball exactly where it is. You don't want it to add measurement, or so, if you deduct a little bit, then you can kind of hold back that plate or push the opposing plate out a little bit, and it should be fine as long as you do the same thing at the top. But I think this is accurate enough. I've used it several times and it works. You just have to keep your eye on it is all it is. And make sure, as long as the bottom and top plate are equal, you're not going to throw anything out of plumb as long as you keep your eye on what you're doing. So that was just a little bit in addition to the last class, some finer points. As far as, if these boards are different on the end, then it's going to be, you're probably going to have a different, this is going to be different than the first run that you pull, 16, and if it's 8 foot, it's going to be the same thing every time, but it's still different. So you're still going to want to have to line these up with your original mark and inscribe it over. You can do this with all kind of stuff. Girders, there's a million ways you could apply this technique. So, you're only limited by your own imagination.